Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm your ringmaster, Bob Pompeani. We have a lot going on today. We're going to get into the Pirates and Ben Cherington. Not necessarily looking to increase payroll anytime soon. We'll talk about that. But clearly, the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is the Steelers in a win nobody saw coming. Not many people saw them silencing Tampa and winning a game at home, -6 starters on defense. That's our #1 topic. Here's your panel to talk about it. We have Jeff Hathhorn, who is the sports director of 93.7 The Fan. In the middle, it's Andrew Fillipponi, PM team. Well, you have so many things, I was going to list them, but then it would take too long, so I won't do that. Instead, I'll say PM team 2 to 6 every day on 93.7 The Fan. Jason Mackey also works The Fan, Post-Gazette, does just about everything. A lot of stuff to get into, guys, so we'll waste no time. Get right into the reason, the biggest reason. There were many reasons, Jeff, why the Steelers won this game today. Contributions from a lot. What was the biggest reason in your mind?
I'm going to go defense. A defense without a starting secondary, basically, and T.J. Watt was able to find a way to beat Tom Brady, who had been nearly invincible against the Steelers. Yeah, I think the defense was outstanding, not just in execution, but in game plan.
Well, you're looking for the #1 reason.
#1. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We got to have the #1 reason, Andrew.
Defense, you tip your cap. But the biggest reason why they won this game is because Brady's not all in on football anymore. Period. Anybody want to debate me on that?
So you think the marital situation is affecting him to the point where he's just not?
He flew to the game by himself. He did not practice with them and go through their walkthrough on Saturday because he went to his former owner's wedding.
It's Friday night.
Well, then why didn't why didn't the entire Patriots team go to Kraft's wedding on Friday?
Well, he has a different relationship with him.
Yeah. I mean, was the entire Patriots team invited?
Some of the Patriots
Wait a minute. You don't think that Brady's behavior is indicative of a guy who's not completely invested in football right now?
I don't think he needs to be completely invested in football.
He's 45 years old.
He can't go out on a Friday night?
He had Quincy Wilson and James Pierre against Mike Evans, and he did not want to stand in the pocket and deliver throws downfield.
It was one game in the career of Tom Brady, and you're chalking it up to a wedding?
I'm saying watch the way
he didn't play terribly well.
Watch the way he's played this year.
Very tentative with the sneaks, too. I thought at the goal line, he normally gets quick tempo, boom, going, he's gone.
You know
and the
why?
one he
Because
did sneak,
he was thinking about deserting the wedding. That's what it was.
Terry Bradshaw agrees.
Terry
Bradshaw agrees with me. Sean Payton agrees with me. Daryl Johnston said it during the broadcast.
You have every right to say it's your #1 reason.
He's not completely invested in football anymore.
When you're 45.
Not just that he became 45 years old and the team around him isn't as good as they were previously. It's because he's not completely invested in football.
What made the guy great?
If he didn't go to the wedding, he would have been incredible.
What made the guy great for years is that he put more time and energy into his profession than anybody.
Yeah.
That's what makes Sidney Crosby great. If Sidney Crosby stopped practicing and stopped training year-round, would he still be a top 5 hockey player? No. He's got good to great natural ability, but his work ethic separates him from everybody else.
He went to McKinnon's Cup party this offseason.
Well, it wasn't the day before a big game.
He's probably not going to score again.
It was not the day before a big game.
I would say it's a bigger thing because he knows the game plan. He doesn't need a Friday practice. But if you want to question him leaving camp for like 2 weeks,
that's what I mean.
I might agree with you.
Well, but that has nothing to do with the wedding. That has to do with his marital situation. I think the marital situation.
I agree with Jason. That's not the biggest reason.
That's not the biggest reason. Look, I'm not trying to disagree with you. If I would say
yes, you are. You clearly are.
I'm trying to have fun.
Give me the biggest Steeler reason why.
The biggest Steeler reason I would say would be their offense. They actually had a legitimate offense. I thought Mitch Trubisky was outstanding when he came in there. I mean, if he would have played that way from the beginning, we never would have seen Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry. Thoughts and prayers, Andrew. But no,
I agree.
He was really good, and Chase Claypool also made plays that a Steelers wide receiver has not made the entire season. He was fantastic. To have that sort of threat, if they could replicate that again, the Steelers are going to be much better off.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Trubisky had done that at the beginning, instead of being basically afraid to make a mistake or restricted because he didn't want to make a mistake, he would have probably still had the job if he played the way he did today.
Well, he's going to get a second chance.
Well,
he's going to play against Miami.
We're going to find. Now, let me ask you.
100% he's going to play against Miami.
Because why? Because Kenny Pickett won't play.
Yeah, because the concussion protocol right now.
The optics are that people who get it, you do not play.
Yeah, Tua coming back, playing against Kenny Pickett, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
For the Cameron great situation today, too, was not great.
I understand that because they're cracking down on it, and they obviously have optics on their mind. They're not going to do it. Eventually, Kenny Pickett will be clear, just as Tua was clear. So, Andrew, when that happens, and let's say that Trubisky plays okay against Miami or better than okay against Miami and they win the game, then what?
I think he would play against Philadelphia, Trubisky, if they win. If they take a 2-game winning streak, he's going to get that start. But it's incumbent on him taking that aggressive mindset, and I don't care if I make a mistake attitude into the Miami game. That's what it's going to hinge on. And it was easy for him, you know, with no time, not a 6-day lead up to think about it, to just go out there and cut it loose. We'll see if he plays that way when he prepares to start. I have my questions about that.
I think that's a big part of it. I think Trubisky just went out and played. He didn't overthink it. He didn't have the whole week to think about it. But I disagree. I think Pickett would be back. I think even if Trubisky goes down and wins that game, I think Kenny Pickett will start against Philadelphia.
Because
I think Kenny Pickett is now their starting quarterback.
See, I'm siding with Andrew on that. They need to win football games. They want to win football games. If Mitch Trubisky plays well next week, that would give them the best chance to win a football. I don't think they would disrupt the good thing. Okay, all right. I was assuming that Mitch Trubisky would play well. If he plays poorly and they win, I think you make the change. What I thought the consideration was, if he plays well and they win, I would stick with him.
How did Kenny Pickett play today? I thought beautifully on the first drive, and then for whatever reason, they went to the same old stuff: outside throws, beneath the line of scrimmage. I thought it was a combination play calling, but I also think the play calling's hampering him a little bit, if that's the case. To me, he doesn't strike me as someone who's going to go side to side underneath, and that's it.
No, I didn't like the way they called plays for Kenny Pickett. I haven't liked the way they've called plays for any of the quarterbacks, really. I mean, the Kenny Pickett I've seen, get him out on the perimeter, get him moving, using his legs, making some daring throws, taking shots over the middle of the field. To me, that's why you go to Kenny Pickett, for the ability to make those throws and the willingness to take those chances. It gets a little sticky for me because we're not in the headset. We don't know what's being called. We don't know every option that Kenny Pickett has. If he's not seeing the field as well and there are options over the middle of the field that he's ignoring, okay, maybe that's not on Matt Canada, but I did not feel like that Kenny got into a rhythm or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's Canada. I mean, we've seen 4 quarterbacks now in that offense.
Right.
Yeah, nobody's really
I mean,
it's the same kind of play calling.
To Canada's credit, when Trubisky walked in the game cold, he let him throw. I mean, they were 1st and 20, but he let him throw. He let him throw a couple of passes.
Downs too. They didn't just run the ball to milk clock. They actually asked him to go get first downs.
Some credit. I think it's his first time he's allowed to have been aggressive, and I think he was relaxed in that. Not that they could have taken more shots downfield, but I thought Canada called his best game for Trubisky in just a half.
Not to circle back too much, Jeff, but I mean also what the wide receivers were doing for him. You know, like Chase Claypool was not making those type of catches previously. That had been seriously lacking, whether it's Deontay, whether they're not even going to George Pickens. Like, get that from a wide receiver.
And another thing, a big play in this was, and whether it's Canada or whether it was Trubisky, the penalty, which was a free play, they immediately caused tempo, and they caused that to happen. And I thought that was terrific for their drive that resulted in a touchdown. We have more to get into, like the outlook of the Steelers. Has it changed now that they're 2-4 and just a game out of first? It's very weird how this NFL is. One day you could be #1 pick in the NFL. The next day you're a game out of first place. We'll talk about it next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.